John F. Kennedy and the Cold War by Julian Lopez and Scott Nicoletti.
Who was John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy was born on May 27, 1917. He was born in the town of Brookline, Massachusetts. He served as the 35th President of the United States from 1961 to 1963. He was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald on November 22, 1963. How did John F. Kennedy impact the Cold War? The USSR was spreading communism to many different countries following World War II, and lots of the countries under communism were made to look bad by America. This made America have a fear of communism and wanted to stop the spread. America wanted a president who would be tough on communism, and JFK made the promise to be tough on communism. Because of this, JFK was elected as president in 1961. That promise is ultimately what caused him to make decisions that would aggravate the USSR, and such as approving the decision to put missiles in Turkey in 1961. When the USSR found out about the missiles in Turkey, they felt they had to retaliate, and they planted missiles in Cuba in 1962 as a result. The United States was reviewing aerial footage of Cuba one day and discovered these missiles. Because of the newly discovered Soviet missiles in Cuba, JFK ordered a naval quarantine around Cuba which blocked off its supplies. This was technically an act of war and the United States had no right to do this, and that's what made the USSR and Cuba angry. This whole situation was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a point in the Cold War where both countries were in a nuclear standoff. JFK and foreign policies. Cuba turned to a communist country in 1959, and this scared many United States citizens having a communist country so close to home. JFK had a strong anti-communism foreign policy. This is important to know to understand the decisions he made. One of JFK's most infamous foreign policies was the Bay of Pigs in 1961. The Bay of Pigs started a capitalist uprising and topple the communist government. This failed horribly, and the exiled Cubans did not receive United States military backup, so as a result, everyone sent was either killed or imprisoned. This caused a sense of distrust between the two nations and would drive Cuba to an alliance with the USSR. In 1961, JFK also placed troops in South Vietnam to help advise local soldiers against the Communist North. This decision would ultimately help sway Lyndon B. Johnson's decision to join the Vietnam War, so the Cold War and the fear of communism spreading caused JFK to send troops to South Vietnam, and that ultimately led to the Vietnam War. The United States saw that what was going on in East Berlin and wanted to make West Berlin appear better under capitalism to make people loathe communism. This plan worked. However, it worked a little too well as West Berlin was significantly better than East Berlin in its economy and quality of life. So many people started leaving East Berlin to move to West Berlin. This was a problem to Khrushchev because he didn't want people just leaving East Berlin. In May 1961, Kennedy met with Khrushchev hoping to find a solution. However, Khrushchev said he wanted to stop the flow of refugees from communism in Berlin. He said that if Kennedy intervened, there would be war. This is where Khrushchev built the Berlin Wall. So United States involvement in West Berlin led to the construction of the Berlin Wall. JFK also went to visit West Berlin in the summer of 1963 to help alleviate their fears. Kennedy gave a speech which ended with the famous words, "Ich bin ein Berliner." Kennedy was essentially saying, "I am a citizen of West Berlin." Kennedy's visit and his speech made his popularity go up in West Berlin and Western Europe in general. He gave this speech to show his and United States support for Berlin. This made the United States look good.
Okay, I'm about to go over the similarities and differences in the ways which the US and USSR sought to maintain influence. Most of these on this list can be used as an ESPN fact. Operation Candor was a United States-backed campaign which sought to put US-favored dictators in control of 8 different South American countries. The Bay of Pigs invasion was a failed attack on Cuba carried out by the CIA under the Kennedy administration. The goal of this attack was to overthrow Fidel Castro's rule. The Red Scare is the US government's promotion of a widespread fear of a potential rise of communism. Nuclear missiles were stationed in Turkey to have the USSR in range of American nuclear weapons. The Truman Doctrine was a foreign policy adopted by the United States that's goal was to limit the expansion of Soviet influence. Perestroika was the reformation of the USSR's economic and political systems, started by Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet ruler at the time. These reformations aimed to industrialize Soviet Russia's economy. The Warsaw Pact was a collective defense treaty established by the Soviet Union and 7 Soviet satellite states. The USSR spread communism in Eastern Europe by controlling countries and their political systems. The Soviet Union stationed nuclear missiles in Cuba to keep mainland US in range of nuclear weapons. This was done after the US kept nuclear arms in Turkey, being one of the most tense events during the entirety of the Cold War. This was known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. It ended with the nuclear arms being removed from both Cuba and Turkey. The Berlin Wall was a barrier which physically and ideologically divided Berlin into the capitalist West and the communist East. This was done by the USSR to maintain political and economic power in East Berlin. The atom bomb is a nuclear weapon which can cause mass destruction. The Vietnam War began as a civil war in Vietnam. However, it turned into a proxy war between the United States and Soviet Russia, who backed the capitalist South Vietnam and the communist Viet Cong, respectively. Satellite states are a once independent country that is now under heavy political, economic, or military control from another country. Mutually assured mass destruction is the principle that the consequences of a nuclear war will result in total destruction of the countries involved. This essentially limits the use of nuclear weapons in fear that there will be a nuclear retaliation. The space race was a competition in which the United States and Soviet Russia competed to have superior spaceflight capacity. Proxy wars are essentially wars that are instigated on the behalf of the United States and Soviet Russia. They aren't directly involved in the hostilities. This could be the US and USSR backing various conflicts globally by supplying munitions. Aside from that, a very large similarity between the USSR and US is the use of propaganda to maintain influence over Western and Soviet populations. However, propaganda was present globally during the Cold War. Propaganda has been used for hundreds of years and has proven to be a very effective tactic. I have various examples of propaganda that was shown to American and Soviet peoples. I'll give you some time to look at them, but the intent of these pieces are to influence various audiences to further agendas.